All right, let's move on. To guys. By the way, we'll talk about Robinhood, but the earnings are tomorrow, so there's not that much to talk about. We'll see when we get earnings tomorrow. What's going on with them? Okay, Airbnb down 10% today. I tweeted this. Didn't really look at too much numbers. I just saw that it was falling. Apparently, they're doing buybacks. Numbers were good. I'll get to that in a second. And then we had a tweet from Chris that got more likes, literally 59 likes versus 58 likes than the actual tweet itself. He says, hope this company and its entire business fails. Home should be for people to live in, not speculated with and turned into vacation rentals that push locals out and replaces them with tourists that destroy the sense of community. Chris, can you explain why you think Airbnb is not just an innovative Silicon Valley tech company that's democratizing home attribution? Why do you think they're an evil monster?
I don't think they're an evil monster. It's just, we oftentimes will sometimes look at innovation and be like, ooh and ah, without realizing the consequences that come our way because of it, right? So I am all for progress. I'm all for new technologies. I'm all for new things, but there has to be some guardrails put in place in order to protect the local communities around it. So I'll give you a couple of examples, like, and it just depends on your perspective as whether you're a homeowner or you're a renter, or are you looking to buy a home. One of the problems that I tend to see with Airbnb is that there's a whole litany of people trying to speculate in the housing market. And what they want to do is they want to become Airbnb empires, right? Where basically they buy up all these homes, they go out and they put them on Airbnb, and then they generate like a nice steady stream of income. And all of that at face level looks like a positive thing, entrepreneurship. You want to see that. But at the same time, what is the consequences? The consequences is you have people buying up property that could have gone to long-term home, what do you call it, long-term residence, and people actually living there, building a community up into, hey, on weekends the whole places are always packed and there's always people there, and then the rest of the time sometimes it's a completely empty thing. People are going in and out of the neighborhood or the community, not really respecting too many things about it. Some homes, if you go to like Nashville, they'll have they'll throw a party there, they'll destroy the fucking neighborhood, leave trash all over the place. And yeah, of course, the responsibility is of the owner to clean it up and everything. But it's almost like, should your neighbors have to bear the consequences of your short-term rental profitability and all the other nonsense? So the thing is, I'm not against
Okay, Chris,
Airbnb.
the communist.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
I'm actually very laissez-faire about 99% of
oh, man.
innovation, but there are certain things that, like, dude, we've got a housing crisis right now. We've got people literally living on the street. We've got almost 40%. I mean, people paying almost 40%, even higher sometimes, just for a fucking place to live. There's something wrong with that, So
Yeah,
yeah,
but
I mean,
wouldn't you say?
yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to fight you against a couple of these points.
Okay.
One is, first of all, cities that want to do something about Airbnb do things about Airbnb. Some of them outright ban it. Other cities like Jersey City, which I am actually affected by having property there, that they are doing where you have to be living at the house and you can't rent out an Airbnb if you don't live there. So if you're just a guy who's coming in from out of the neighborhood and want to make some money doing an Airbnb and not have rentals, then you can't do that. So right away, it's for the homeowners, at least. And so I think it's up to the city to determine the rules, right? So if they're not doing that, I mean, you can't blame Airbnb as a business for trying to succeed. That's ludicrous.
Well, not so I would say this to you, that yes, there are definitely a lot of people that are using this for the right purpose, which is that they want to use this as an extra source of income, provide so that they can, pay their mortgages. And I am totally for it. I just think that there has to be some rules developed around it so that you can't have unlimited amount of speculation.
Yeah, but
Also,
each city has to develop its own rules.
no, and you're totally right about that. But at the same time, cities at the local level have to literally deal with all the consequences until these rule changes are put in place, right? My thing with Airbnb right now is that at a national level, this company can actually corrupt a lot of local politics and everything else to allow unlimited amounts of this stuff. Where basically you have an entire group of people that have an economic interest in displacing local people, and then end up profiting from it, right? The other problem that I'm seeing right now is that the business model is not sustainable, because even among Airbnb hosts, if there's too many people allowed to do Airbnb, you're going to diminish whatever profitability is there, until the point where people end up losing their money. And this is, like I said, it's like a super cycle of people getting into the sector, buying up everything, and then getting stuck with the huge mortgages and leverages, and then things falling apart. Like there's a
Isn't
countless
that called
YouTube
capitalism
videos.
though?
Yeah, but the thing is, like, you don't want the economy to teeter based on that, because you want to stay capitalist. Like, think about it this way: in the 2008 housing crisis, we were very laissez-faire. Everyone should get a home, everyone should get a mortgage. Let this happen, let that happen. And then what happens? Unlimited capitalism is not the right way to do it. Like, you have to put guardrails around the negative parts of capitalism. So, like, right now, like, a person who's a
I
true
don't understand your
libertarian.
solution. Well, who is
Mhm.
putting these guardrails on?
Well, that's what I mean. It should be done at a much higher level. I mean, maybe
Federal
at the
government should regulate
I would say,
Airbnb.
I would say at least the state level, probably not the federal government, but at the state level it should be, where they have some generalized laws that are put in place to say, look, we need to encourage people to build more homes so that people have a place to live. We need to figure out ways to control the cost of shelter so that people can actually live in a place and not let an entire community turn into. I mean, there's also on the other side of this, um businesses that actually need the support, like hotel and motel industry. I mean, I'm a fucking Patel, so of course I'm gonna
He's
support
like
my boys,
the
right?
motels,
Yeah.
the
No,
Patel
I mean,
motel chain.
no, but the
Now
thing
we
is, like,
know why he doesn't like Airbnb.
no,
Uh,
I'm just no. That I have
Look,
a lot
look,
of,
first of all,
yeah,
I don't totally
yeah,
disagree with what you're saying. I actually
yeah.
believe Airbnb needs guardrails, but I think they're doing it at the city level where it's supposed to be done. I think if you start making it about federal government and maybe state governments are okay, but it becomes like, dude, are we capitalists? I'm a capitalist, okay? So if a city wants to let Airbnb rentals in its city, okay, and in fact, they get a lot of. You're actually saying tourism is bad? I don't know. New York survives on tourism, just like many places. Florida survives on tourism. So I don't know. I don't think it's bad everywhere. I think you're talking about maybe at communities that, maybe smaller communities that are being changed to Airbnb. I could give you an example, at least in Jersey
Mhm.
City, where I could say Journal Square is like, it's like up and coming area, for example. Actually, a lot of Indian people living there, but a lot of people are starting Airbnb rentals too, or they were before this law went into effect. So displacing people who couldn't afford great housing but were close to transportation, I could see that. But then Jersey City changed the law and made it hard for those people.
Right.
So
And it's the same thing in Atlanta and New York. Like, we're starting to see that. But the question is, all these people that are going to speculate initially, they're going to get in thinking that, hey, this is a great thing. And then when these laws get put in place, what happens? If they're not making money, now you got a problem, because people are going to have homes that they're going to have to dump on the market. If you look out west, this is one of the problems that people are running into with Las Vegas. Las Vegas has these so many Airbnbs and all this other stuff. A lot of that stuff is going to come to a head. And I think we're going to see, believe it or not, we might see a giant housing correction thanks to this in certain localities, where
that's
people thought,
possible.
yeah. Like, I'll give you an example. I know, and here's the thing: whenever there's something good, people tend to go fucking ape shit about it and go overboard and then destroy it for everybody else. So, like, in New York City, I don't know if you saw this, about 5 years ago, but there was a guy who was leasing out apartments all over the city. Like, I'm talking about hundreds of apartments, and then putting them on Airbnb, which is crazy, because now you're taking away from the local people's ability to actually have some supply. And New York City's already, like, housing, like, it's terrible for housing. And then you're pushing out the locals to go further and further out into the suburbs just to have a decent place to live, and then commute hour and a half each way for
Do you
a
think
decent
Airbnb
place
is
to
the
live.
main reason those locals get pushed, or do you think there's other
Yeah,
reasons?
I think that they add to the problem. I don't
gentrification
think
is the main reason that broke.
I would say with Airbnb, they add to the problem, not the solution. That's all. So I think that we have a
So, can
housing
I point
shortage.
out?
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Mhm.
housing shortage, and you brought up, I didn't get to finish the other point, was the housing shortage is not caused by Airbnb. It is caused by the cities who make crazy rules that stop people from developing real estate. San Francisco being a prime example, and New York, as you invested
Mhm.
before in SLG, because it's so hard to build in Manhattan. It's incredibly hard. Even in Brooklyn, by the way,
Yeah.
it's incredibly hard to build
Yeah.
all around New York City.
Yeah.
They are the ones who are making it hard. Okay. Airbnb is a solution possibly for people to visit places and make it more affordable to visit places, not make it harder, and actually bring tourism to places that wouldn't even have tourism. Okay, who would stay in Coney Island in Brooklyn? Like, would you even think about that if you're some tourist? But now you have an option. Would you think of staying on Avenue U and Coney Island Avenue? Like I'm mentioning some place, whatever. You wouldn't think about staying in this way, but now there's an Airbnb that you can go and stay at and be right in the middle of that community and go to the restaurants there, and you know what I'm saying, and spend some money there. So I think you're wrong about this. I think Airbnb is actually doing a bigger positive than the bigger negative you're pointing out, and it's up to New York to allow people to build, not up to Airbnb to fix these problems.
And here's
Real
the thing,
quick, before you go, for the seventh night in a row, seventh night in a row, ladies and gentlemen, we have hit 300.
Well, after getting around 700, I just don't feel as good about 300. I'm sorry, people.
That was the power of palate
So-
here.
So I totally agree with you with regards to the city getting in the way of itself, where right now there was a development in Harlem where they wanted to build 1,000 apartments, right? But the local councilwoman was like, no, you need to make it like, I think like 70% affordable, right? And then the 30% market rate apartments, and developers like, look, I can't make any money if I try to make it like that. Like I can work with you to get you like 30% affordable and the other 70% market rate. And the lady was just like, no, I'm not having it. I'm not doing it. And instead of 1,000 units being developed and put in place, it ended up being that there is no apartments coming tomorrow. So I totally agree with you. A lot of these politicians, they shoot themselves in the foot and then they say, well, look, we have a housing crisis. No, I totally agree with you. I think we have to have a multifaceted solution to address this thing. But one of those things is making sure that we're limiting the amount of stock that should go to residential, doesn't end up getting put in the hands of people that are looking for short-term gains, right? So that's all I'm saying. Like, there are also areas, believe it or not, I agree. There are also areas on the what do you call it, in the country where Airbnb is definitely going to support the local economy. As an example, like Asheville, North Carolina. Me and my wife, we love going there, and yeah, we could stay at a hotel, and sometimes if we have like a large group of our friends, it would be nice to get like something like an Airbnb. The problem is, just because we want to go there one weekend a year, the local people in Asheville, 90% of the time, these things are just being like put in place and no one's using it. So I don't know, like
Chris,
there
do you
has
use
to be
Airbnbs? Do you stay in them?
Huh?
Or no? Do you stay
like
in
once in a while, like, but I would prefer to stay at a hotel. To be honest with you, I get
But he
there's
uses it. That's the thing.
Huh? Well, no, I mean,
Oh,
if
but you
if you're
prefer to
going as
try it,
if you're going as a group, sometimes you don't get a choice. Like, like, hey guys, you want to stay at a hotel versus Airbnb? And if the group says Airbnb, I'm not
staying
like,
in this.
no.
I'm gonna sleep outside.
Yeah, no,
what do you guys think of the stock? Chris, outside of the moral things you have about the business, is it appealing to you at all?
Oh yeah, hell yeah. From a business standpoint, dude, Airbnb is a killer.
It's like, shit, I just bought some fucking call options.
No, I didn't buy any call options. No, but if
I just sold my Truist and bought an Airbnb.
If I take my morality hat off, yeah, it's a very profitable business. They're getting a cut of something that they don't have to put in a lot of work for. All they're doing is just providing some listing services for this thing, providing the transaction mechanism that they need, these hosts need to basically put it out.
What do you think about CEO and management? The CEO put out a Twitter.
CEO is good. CEO is good. He knows. From a business perspective, he's a good guy. He's good. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to run a very efficient operation. There's profitability there. Like I said, you don't have to agree with every single thing about a business to know that it's a good business proposition. So I think the business proposition is there. There's scalability inherently built in. It's very similar to Uber, right? But I think this one has a lot of negative societal effects that I wish sometimes Airbnb could actually be the solution if they work with the local governments. My solution on this one would be that there would be a small tax that Airbnb would pay to the localities so that localities can use that money to incentivize people to build more housing. And that this way you can have a system where
it's called real estate taxes and income tax. It's already done.
No. Whoa. So real estate and income taxes around that thing are a very small part. I'm saying something on top of it to encourage more housing that's specifically geared towards additional housing. So it's almost like, look, there's only 5, like let's say in a locality, You say that there can be no more than 5% of the total housing units available at any given time be Airbnbs, right? So what ends up happening, those 5% that are Airbnbs, they pay a certain amount of money that goes back into the
Well,
localities.
hold on. Do you believe in
Yeah,
the medallion system that New York has for taxi cabs?
I do. I do.
See,
I do.
well, then I don't know, then you can't really be a bull on Uber if you think that we should have medallions, because this is the same thing you're talking about. We should have medallions for people now Airbnb-ing. They'll only give out a certain number of tens of thousands of them, and that's it. You're in some lottery, you have to pay off a politician. You're building a corrupt system, honestly. The whole medallion thing was a corrupt system.
So the medallion system on its face was definitely a system that was not good, because you ended up having a lot of people end up applying for these medallions, getting it, but it regulated enough to the taxi cabs weren't fucking like, the drivers would end up being like homeless. Right now, this is the problem that you're running into with a lot of industries where you have unlimited amount of people.
Already you mentioned a fallacy, because the taxi cab guys who are driving it don't own the medallions. Those are the millionaires and billionaires that own the medallions.
Right.
Because even my father was during that time driving a taxi cab for somebody who had a medallion. And even back in the 80s, someone offered him, I forgot, it was $100,000. It was a lot of money for him. They're like, would you buy this medallion? We'll sell it to you for $100,000 or whatever, $150,000. Obviously, that medallion shot up to like 1.5 million at the height. He didn't buy it because he wasn't thinking that way. But he was the guy driving for the people that own the medallion. That's the way that system works. So you want to create the same Airbnb system, basically, where people who have this piece of paper that says they can have an Airbnb, that'll be worth a lot of money.
Well, no, here's the thing. That money that's utilized for, let's say, the active rental market. Yeah.
Noise. There's a lot of noise coming from your mics.
There you go. So my thing is, if you're able to channel that financial component to incentivize more building more houses, then it's like a what is that thing called? It cancels it out. So as an example, the more people stay at Airbnbs, the more revenue comes into the locality. The locality can then use that money to build more housing, right? Essentially allowing the cap.
Have you seen how government uses money?
Well. That's a good point too.
What is the lotto system? The lotto system in New York, even. What was that meant for?
That's a corrupt ass system, dude. I know.
No, but do you remember what it was meant for?
Which one? The housing lottery system?
No, the lotto system, not the housing lottery. That's a different problem. But the lotto system in terms of buying lottery tickets. Remember, it was meant for education. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It's no longer used for education.
I didn't even know that.
What happened to our tolls that we pay on bridges to drive over bridges? That was supposed to pay off the bridge.
Yeah. That's a good point too.
That's done too. So like, as soon as the government gets your hand in your pocket,
anything they do,
it's over. So I don't know about giving them more power to do this kind of stuff. I think I'm more libertarian in that kind of respect, or Republican. I'll say it.
All right, we'll move on from Airbnb. Chris, question for you, because everyone's asking, did you buy Palantir yet, or didn't buy it yet?
Not yet. I'm probably just going to wait until the market somewhat stabilizes. And the way that I'm probably going to start buying in is just selling like maybe monthly puts on it.
He woke up and saw that he could.
No, I mean,
he woke up.
He had to sleep on it. He's like, wait a second, I don't like Palantir.
He's like, hold on,
no.
Hold on,
everybody. Hold on.
I don't want to be buying when everyone is FOMOing in. You know, that's all.
I agree. No, I don't think it's. I am shocked. What did it end today? 950. I was utterly shocked that it's sustained that level.
I don't think so. I don't think that's a problem. I think stocks. I think one thing we don't know, or it takes a long time to learn, is that stocks take a long time to get back to baseline. Like everyone wants it the next day, but it takes a long time for something to play out. You know, even as it's going down, even as it's going up sometimes. So I think we still have yet to see what happens, because it might pump even further.
Not with my thing is they have a huge float. Like once you start hitting those float numbers, you gotta realize that there's gonna be a lot more gravity towards it moving up and down in either direction. So I think puts are the way to go.
Yeah, someone's saying you sold puts. What Chris means there is that he is betting the stock will not get to a certain level below 950. He's gonna get premium because of that. If it does, he'll be assigned those shares and he'll get it at a smaller price than 950, which he'll obviously be happy.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna discuss what the strike price is that I'm doing that at.
Hey, so. Carplos, did you buy Palantir too? You said you were.
Yeah, you're on the Discord.
I mean, what are you doing with this? Move us down, man. Move us into the regular places. Dude.
Wait, I thought you were in the rate. No, Carl's
No.
supposed to be here, right?
There,
No,
no,
I think
no.
we're all backwards now.
Yeah, we're all backwards.
I
I know.
was
I
supposed to be
feel
on the
like I'm
right
looking in
side.
a mirror.
Yeah.
He's
Oh,
playing
there you
tic
go.
tac toe.
Wait, no,
Then-
But you know what? It's
There you
not
go.
bad. It's not bad to mix it up and give it a different look.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
mix
As
it
long
up,
as
man.
I don't know,
Chris
it just-
has to be on the left because it looks weird when he's staring at the chat.
Yeah. It just looks
Okay.
weird when, like, I'm so used to looking at the screen like this. Like, I don't know. It looks weird when you're
Yeah.
when it's not like that.